welcome back to 5 and 5. This is our second episode. I'm here with Matt Dunn. We're excited to talk about a couple clips from last weekend's NCAA lacrosse action. We hope you caught week one on our YouTube channel. We'll keep posting these every week, and we're excited to talk some lacrosse. Matt, welcome back.
Thanks, Deemer. Good to be back. Let's get it rolling here. It's exciting to see 2 weeks of college lacrosse under our belt now. Started off with this Virginia Army game, which I loved partially just because the kind of the screen angle it was shot at. You kind of get a real up close feel with this stuff, and both teams have some big time players here. So getting to see this stuff up close, I think, plays nice for some of these clips.
Get a sense of the size and physicality too. I think you and I spent some time watching Army Syracuse over quarantine, and I remember how physical Army's defense was and aggressive, and obviously it's pretty well documented how many weapons UVA has and the size of some of their midfielders and stuff like that. So it's definitely a cool battle to see so up and close.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was thinking of that Army Cuse game from last year. I was like, damn, these Army guys got bigger over the past year. So I know Virginia's a big team, so it is cool to see. But let's get this first clip rolling here. So the first one we kind of have, this Dodge from X right here. I thought the Army guy did a nice job off the start. And really what I wanted to kind of talk about, I'd like to hear your thought here, Deemer, is as these Dodgers come up from X, and I really like what the attackman does here by stepping away and kind of re-attacking at the top hand here. See him get his shoulder into the Army defender's left hand. This Army defender right here doesn't abandon the dodge and actually kind of collapses on it. And because of the spacing here on the backside and kind of the flaw of this camera angle, you can't fully see it right now. It allows Army's defense to roll over and makes that pass really tight. So I do like that, actually. And we used to call that like holding an anchor in college, where you're the adjacent guy. Your guy starts to clear through. Don't automatically turn your back and clear through. Kind of just hold space and show and hedge into that area, especially as you can read the dodge and play both a little bit. But I wonder, from your perspective as an offensive player on an outlet here, at what point does this player step into a gap and try to become more of a shooting threat, where he might step into the defense a little more? Or at what point does he just kind of become an outlet instead, deeper and wider?
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and I think it really comes down to your spacing and your body positioning. And there's always like a debate. I think Matt Moore is doing a nice job here of having his body turned to be able to receive the ball righty, which is his strong hand, across his body. But also what's hard about that too is that as 11 commits and is that forward outlet, because he keeps drifting over, then it makes it easy for those backside Army defenders to rotate into the ball. And I think that's when, even if it's one step, stepping back to the ball, to the feeder, allows you to make that second slide a step or two longer, which just gives you options. I think you could step down and shoot it, which would be great, especially if we have some range on our shot. But giving that second slide another step or two, it gives you the chance to, one, catch an attack opposite, or two, just hit the one more to the backside, depending on the spacing and how the defense is rotating. So I think really you just have to keep positioning your body so that you're a threat, because if you're just fading backwards and high, you're just going to take yourself out of the play and allow that anchor you're talking about to hedge and get back, and nothing happens from it.
Yeah. And I think a key here, and it's interesting because we kind of talked a little last week about when a Dodger takes middle on those sweeps, how you want to be very cautious of coming adjacent off of what we were calling don't come off the fade or the drift.
Yep.
In this scenario, it's the same idea. However, if this Army defender were to basically fly full speed down right here, Matt Moore can sit in this spot right here and pretty much get a pretty good step down shot or catch a good spot to attack opposite. I think what's important here is this guy at least wins this matchup to this, 5-7 yard mark, where if this guy's going to turn the corner, he's not turning it below 5 yards, and he's kind of wide right now, which allows this Army defender to do a nice job of, he never fully commits to this dodge until the last second. Every time the Dodger seems like a threat right away. He jabs down. As soon as he looks like he's going to be a feeding threat, he gets back, stick in the passing lane there, never fully turns his left hip to the Dodger so he can see both kind of in that hedging position. Um, and he's able to jab down and kind of force Matt Moore here to drift over. Because at this point, the Dodgers gotten up so high that Matt can no longer clog space there. So he has to drift over, making it really easy for the backside guys to help over. So this guy just winning his matchup to that point is important, where, we're always taught to take away top side. But if you have a defense that can kind of understand and play these adjacent areas really well, if you can win a matchup to a certain point, like that's a really good Dodger. It's almost better he does this here than overplay this top side and get inside roll, because look at the space under here. So I think recognizing that is kind of a big factor too. And just a really nice game of playing that stick in the passing lane versus jab, show, get back type of thing messes with the Dodgers' head there, forcing that pass to be a little tight.
Yeah, and I would say even going back to to the Dodger, I think Connor here, he gets that initial bounce and then attacks the head of the stick. And then right there, when he makes that pass, I think that's when, if you can get a subtle step away, you can really see if 11 wants to commit. But then it also allows you to help get your hands free. He's
Yeah.
like very tied up with the Army defender. And so, I can't tell if the pass like just misses the stick a little bit or it's a little, too in. But like that little step away can make all the difference. And Connor's like super hardworking kid. And it's really cool to see his success. So early in the season, but just like little details can make all the difference in terms of being able to hook something like this up and then possibly turning it over.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like it kind of tipped off the stick, but I mean, basically, I think you kind of saw this guy coming right here as a tight spot.
Right.
No, it's interesting though. I like your point about that step away there, because it's tough. He kind of gets caught almost like in the trap, like right in the gap here. Whereas if he can step away, he does kind of force, this guy to make a decision, either get back and also step away, and maybe one of those like roll back under, just if you see the space underneath here, allows him to work a little more. It's a tough play. Things happen fast. I think both these defenses actually played really, pretty well this game. They both do a nice job of anticipating the next play and putting some pressure on the offense when they get in tight, though. So Army did a nice job clogging the space on the backside, and a pretty nice job on ball here, and this guy reading the play and helping out.
Something about those all black uniforms.
Right? Yeah.
A little
I,
more intimidating.
I think it gives your defense a little bit of a boost. I don't know what percentage, but I gotta say it definitely helps you a little. All right, so now we got UVA on defense here. A little pick play off the end line. Nice little switch. Right here, a little show, but a little backdoor cut for the Army player to get a good look at the goal there and gets a shot. Yeah, I mean, I'll start off here. What I think, I think off the pick, first off, Virginia does a nice job, playing under the pick a little. I think it looks like this is an awkward spot for the pick. So this guy's basically saying, hey, if he goes low here, I'm going to get over it. If he sets the gate pick there, I'm going to try to get through it. But this guy's in the perfect spot here. Pick this far out, drop off, put yourself in a position to switch either way. As it comes topside, he puts himself in a spot where he can make the play there. Does actually a pretty nice job on the ball right here, defending the rollback, getting his hips upfield, driving it under. I like this, hands on the back hip, drive it down. This guy's in a good spot. Just when we call, when we're in this show spot, you have to make sure you stay on top of where your guy is, because especially at higher levels and savvy guys back here, they'll make you pay if they see the back of your head. I think as 20 starts drifting down here, this guy can really start to see, hey, don't need to sit in this, like we call it the dive bomb area for this kind of underneath, especially as it sticks in his left hand going towards the end line. Maybe I start to either work out a little more to my man behind, or if you want to play it cautiously, put yourself on top of the crease there so that if you do get that backswing, you're not a step late. But I mean, that's one of those instances where, things happen really fast at this level. And I think, it's just that one quick head turn seeing a little late there.
Yeah, I think Army really executed everything from the start, pretty well. And even just going back to the initial setup of the pick, I love the run that 20 takes. And he really, with that right to right, sets up that goal line razor pick, and I think that could be, it's even interesting. Like, is that hard to read where, you think a guy's going to run off of that razor towards X, but he takes top side. generates the switch, works his matchup with a couple rollbacks here. He's patient with the ball. This is Army's best player. And then eyes are up, ready to hit it forward. He doesn't hold on to it too long. I think that's a great example of a guy, kind of knowing his role, like of, being an initiator and getting things going, but then also being ready to just hit it forward and hit the simple pass forward, for a guy coming off the field and fading to that back pipe. Like you said, when 11's in that show spot,
Right.
making sure that he's just taking a couple steps off ball right there to get to that opposite pipe so he can catch it on the move and turn the corner.
Yeah, this is a really interesting, tough spot of the field actually to be this guy, right? Because at this point, unless this guy's nice and deep, which makes your job easy here, if this guy starts putting pressure on you, get into that hung game scenario, um, sometimes if you're going to support and say, for whatever reason, scouting report, just understanding the matchup here, this guy feels he needs to linger around for another second or two. I actually don't think it's a bad idea for these guys to drift up a little, thinking that if 20's going to make a play here, he's going to have to come under, but he's going to have to come back up, and at least putting yourself up here allows you to take one step this way and cut off that dive bomb back underneath. But it also really allows you to get across top side. And there's nothing wrong in these scenarios with going, top side. I think we saw a lot of teams getting hung these first kind of 2 weeks. But with the shot clock going on, if you got guys that can play off ball above the cage, I think you'd rather, give up the hung here, drift a little higher up and position yourself above the crease more so than so far to the side as these dodges press these low awkward angles here. I mean, it's a nice finish too. Honestly, I think Virginia makes the right off-ball read, right? They bump through, but the guy catches it and makes a quick finish on the run, right up the hash there.
Yeah, it's a good job of extending his hands. His posture is still a bit deceptive. Like he right here could be a feeder. He kind of looks it off.
Yeah,
It's just good execution. It's just a nice play by Army for sure.
yeah,
The
yeah.
hang situations are interesting too, Matt. Like, that's been a huge topic on Twitter. Guys talking about the hang up game, so many guys getting hung. Here it's kind of you just see kind of in that no man's land spot. But again, with the lower, shot clock and things, like it is an interesting discussion. Getting hung's not the worst thing in the world, and just covering up off ball and just being ready to meet a guy at goal line.
Yeah, I mean, to me, unless you're unless unless you scout a team and you watch the last game where they've torn their last two or three opponents up by getting them hung, they have a guy who's just, phenomenal behind the cage at either seeing the field really well and feeding or coming attacking that hung really well. Um, I mean, my thought would be to get hung until you have to audible out of it because they're causing problems by getting hung. To me, it kind of seems like it disrupts the flow of the offense. Um, with the shot clock going on, especially if you can get it down to the lower half of the shot clock, you kill another 20 seconds back there. It's not the worst thing in the world. And you then kind of at least have some extra help above the cage for some of these scenarios like this, don't get hung for no reason. But if you're kind of choosing to show and provide some support there last second, like getting hung doesn't seem like the worst thing in the world unless a team proves that they can beat you with that. Cool. There we'll go to the last clip here, and I'll let it run here. But Deemer, if you want to take the first kind of run through with this one.
Yeah, so this was a tough overtime game. Loyola taking it from Richmond, and I thought this was just a great clip to just see a couple different things. Loyola starts in their man offense. Richmond's playing man to man. They end up jumping into zone off of the end line restart, and we're just going to see Loyola get into their 1-4-1 in against the zone. And you just see like the differences in kind of the spacing and just how important, a couple different movements can cause that ripple effect, throughout the D. And even if we rewind.
Yeah. I was going to say maybe we kind of go through the first half of this before we get into the zone. Any point in particular you want? Is this good?
Yeah, so this is great. So you just get a little up pick here, getting downhill. Richmond's fighting through, getting in the little pairs on the wing. And this is where, again, like, when you're working a short stick matchup, like really trying to make sure that you're dodging and redodging. I think on the initial top side, the Richmond short stick does a good job of bottling up 32. But then on the rollback and step back here, he's gets that Richmond defender to overcommit. And you'll see now that causes that adjacent slide. We hit the forward, and we're
Yeah.
at least generating a shot opportunity.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it is a nice job working that short stick matchup as 50 gets through here and works his hips upfield. You can kind of see right away um, as that right hip comes through and he leans forward, just oversteps it there. Um, and he gets turned back. And as soon as he kind of reaches back for that one right there on that hitch, he gets caught reaching. And that's kind of that. As soon as he gets turned there, he ends up in that chase mode almost because once his hips go too far this way, he has to overcompensate to get back. And as soon as he reaches here, I mean, this is a pretty nice move. Kind of start drifting back, hands up, look like you're about to pull it, gets a stick in the air, right? That's exactly what we kind of try to work on avoiding, even though it's really hard to as soon as you see a guy get his hands back this way. That's why defenders do so many approach drills. Um, Gets that quick hitch there, forcing, as you said, this guy to help over, which I think is the right play in this scenario. It happened fast. There's no way this guy's going to make that slide in time.
Right.
This guy's out of the picture. I think the one thing is here, he just slips on it, right? So they give up a step down from 15 yards off the start. Um, Not the worst thing in the world. I think if that guy doesn't slip, I think maybe it's back in time. I also think if this D midi here um, doesn't bite so much on that hitch, you kind of see what happens if this guy comes down the side here. So as the ball plays up here, if he comes down the side, you do kind of have help here. So if you can overplay that top side, it's
Right.
kind of that classic force the guy down the side because look where your teammates are. He has to tuck it here. You do have some guys here that can plug up a little bit.
And just like, how hard this guy's working to get back to his right hand. It's just good poise and working on being physical, selling the shot fake, really utilizing like a good skill set, to create an opportunity, even though 15 yards, hey, that's not necessarily a super high percentage shot, but you are starting to draw some rotations. And then now out of that shot, it's interesting. We don't know the scout, kind of, if Richmond was hopping into the zone, off every end line or just kind of in OT. But, now you're kind of putting Loyola into a 1-4-1. And now that changes up the offense mid possession.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty common move, and I don't know exactly how frequently they did it throughout the game. But especially towards the end of the game or at certain points, if you feel comfortable with your team running a zone defense, it's not uncommon, especially in the shot clock era, too often end line. Some time winds down towards the end of a game, go into a zone, give the offense a different look because now it takes, to your point, takes the offense some time to get into their set. It might take them, a couple spins around to get a good feel for, hey, where are the opportunities? And at that point, the clock's now from 40 seconds to 20 seconds to 15 before they have a chance to really attack it. So not an uncommon move. Um, let's check it out and see kind of how Richmond's playing it and how Loyola tries to attack.
So what it's been, getting the 1-4-1s, initiating off the wing, end up hitting that inside look. And then we're going to rewind and we're going to watch both initiations off the wing and just show how
Yeah.
the spacing can really start to open up and see what Loyola's doing, see how Richmond's rotating around it.
Yeah. So Richmond currently has their, just a quick freeze here, short stick inside and short stick on the wing, and you'll kind of notice where Loyola's attacking from both times, right? So both times they're initiating with that short stick on the wing right there and short stick on the inside. And you'll kind of see that's where Loyola ends up getting their leverage throughout this. So if you have four poles in the perimeter in a zone, it's kind of tough. You have big rangy guys. But if you can kind of attack a short stick a little and get guys to rotate it, it ends up getting the defense moving a little.
Yeah, Matt, let's rewind. So let's get back to that initial dodge. He makes a solid move to get top side. All right. And I think a couple things are interesting here. So right after this move, we draw that adjacent. We see how Loyola has their top center player out at the top of the box, and 32's that backside wing. You know, Richmond jumps out to that top pass, opens up that skip lane. And then now, as we kind of rewind, so let's take it all the way back to that skip pass. So here, now we skip it through.
Right.
And that's 32 catches right here.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
So this is where I think it's interesting. So when I'm 32 and I'm catching, I'm starting to look inside, right? We move the ball on the perimeter, and then we're looking for cuts and flashes to the ball. You know, Kevin Lindley does a nice job of flashing to it, but number 6 is down there kind of around that 10-yard spot above goal
Yeah.
line.
So ball hits the wing right here, right? So skip pass looks very similar, right?
Right
So
here.
I think the interesting thing to your point, Deemer, is right here. So what the how the zone basically works is I think at this point, the short side wants to square up the wing dodger, force him up top, where the top center guy can pinch down on it, as Richmond does. And then 6 kind of folds over to this backside here. They have a high crease, so low crease is taken there, high crease is taken there. I think this guy might be able to bump him up a little. 6 holds that lane. As 6 feels he needs to rotate up, that's where this lane opens up. Um, Now, thinking about this guy's outside the box at 20. Maybe he could have played a little more slowly. But with that, the backside is a nice job rotating up. And 6, I think is the point you're going to make, is able to get back to this spot by the time he touches it here, clogging up some space. So you were saying that this guy, where would he be looking right now, ideally on that skip pass?
Yeah, so maybe even take it back another second. So right as I'm catching it, that skip on the wing, that's when immediately I'm thinking maybe a one more to the ball side base. And then I'm also ready to look inside because, Seven's one of Loyola's best finishers. He's had a great career at Loyola. Lefty catches a lot. So, I'm thinking that guy's cutting to me. I might be able to slide one inside, and that lane might be there, might not. And this is where, as offensive players, we need to be patient. We need to be scanning our options and kind of taking stock so that the next time it comes around, maybe that's there, maybe that's open. And I think he's almost open here, but they keep
Yeah.
working it and then they end up hitting it.
Yeah, to your point, I think he is open. He's especially those really good inside finishers. If you're not basically ball slide on their stick, they're kind of always open. I think the optical tough part here is right. Just seeing this, there doesn't look like to be a lot of space here. He knows his cut's basically limited right there because there's a guy there. And even knowing that, that's a smaller gap where this guy can take one step and chop down, this guy can take a step and chop up. It looks like a tougher pass. So moves it back. We see a very similar initiation start here, right? Goes downfield now. So here's what's interesting. Last time this pole slid over to an upfield dodge where he met the dodge around here. Now he's going down to meet the dodge at, 6 yards above GLE on the hash rather than 11. So crashing down there makes this gap, look how much space we have here now.
Right.
From this rotate. It's not going to be a simple show and get back. Now 6 goes flying up because we have a potential step down shooter there. Backside rolls up and boom. The last play, Deemer, like we were talking about, 6 is standing right there. Looks very similar, but look at all the space now.
Yeah, and 7 does a great job of he's at 5 yards above goal line, but he times his pop well, ready
Yeah,
to catch and
I
load.
noticed that, right?
So it's less of a flash, less of a C cut, quick pop. 32's ready this time to look inside, and then ridiculous hands to catch and
Yeah,
shoot. Like it's just, it's tough because the guy is there, but all you need is a sliver. You need to just catch and release. And
yeah.
it's a really incredible look and big time goal for Loyola to capitalize.
It's interesting because it's an incredible play, and I feel for this Richmond defense here, especially right here, because in his mind, like he closes the gap pretty quickly there. And I've been on the wrong side of a similar play before where, you think you're close enough to a guy, but you got a really good inside finisher and like things happen like that. Um, so just like really locking in, especially when you have a really good inside finisher, that if they catch the ball, they're probably going to score if they catch it. Um, I think the other interesting point is just realizing like you see a play like this, yeah, it's a great play, but understanding what really forced the zone to be, air quote broken or that opportunity to be opened really started with forcing long rotations in a zone, forcing a defense to rotate in a zone leaves a lot of things open. Whereas if you let a zone continuously snap back to their spots, it's difficult to find those little gaps in there.
Yeah, and that's one thing, as I've watched more and more, like, I think there's a lot of variations and things you can do with the 1-4-1 against the zone. But it does allow you for those long passes around the perimeter. And when you get some good action off the wing and you can start getting the defense in the zone to start moving like this, you really open up a lot of looks inside and to the pipes.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's interesting. It's fun to break down a zone. It's fun to break down a possession where you see a little bit of both because strategically, I kind of like the move. I think it's a smart move, especially, if you're giving up looks every once in a while in man. Definitely throws an offense off. And I think for the most part, they ran it pretty well. I wonder if it was, game plan or a misread for this guy to fly down that low. I also wonder where you can maybe slow play flying out to a guy here and holding a spot here a little more. So much easier said in hindsight, but that really is, all that being said, the guy's pretty covered up and makes an incredible finish. So you just got to give a lot of credit to Loyola there on making that play.
Yeah, absolutely. And as this crazy season kind of gets underway and there's going to be teams picking up games, 2 days before, with testing and COVID and everything, the more that players can just be players and continue to assess threats, play off of each other, and just make adjustments throughout the game is going to be critical to teams having success throughout the spring. But I'm excited to keep watching. There's a lot of great lacrosse. I think even myself breaking this down with you, I'm learning a lot, trying to raise my IQ and hope everyone that's tuned in and watching has enjoyed. And we're excited to keep this going.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I always find it so valuable to hear the offensive perspective of the ball while doing the same defensive breakdown, just like we talked about. As a defender, understanding what the offense is trying to do and hoping to do really opens your eyes into what your objective should be defensively. So definitely excited to keep these going. Excited to have more college lacrosse on and get to keep breaking down some film.
Awesome. Stay tuned for episode 3 next week. Excited for the weekend's action upcoming. Have a great one.